and today we're going to be talking about WooCommerce events, since we're seeing lots of those popping up at the moment.
Yeah, and I would also like to welcome our special guest, Rodolfo. Rodolfo, please introduce yourself.
Hello,
Hey.
I'm the only Rodolfo in the WordPress space, I think. I haven't met anyone yet with my same name, so I'll just stick to Rodolfo. I've been working as a WooCommerce independent freelancer since ever, let's say 2012, and onwards. I am behind Business Bloomer, which is apparently a very popular blog for WooCommerce DIYers who like to do customization stuff. And recently, I'm behind Checkout Summit as well, which is, my way of trying to fight against AI.
Interesting
Spoilers.
perspective.
Yeah, that's not how I envisioned it.
No.
Before we dive in, can you touch on, maybe we can come back to it, but I'm interested to know how you feel it's fighting against AI.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a different background. So I've had this very popular, successful blog all about WooCommerce customization for years. It was my only basically revenue stream. I was just posting content, getting clients out of it, and closing sales. Super easy. Then AI arrived, and apparently it does the same things that I do on Business Bloomer. Not as well as I do it, but more or less it gives you something useful that you can play with. And if you're familiar with code, you can basically, get it done in 5 minutes ish. It's not, that simple. It's not that linear, but you get the picture. So, I come from a perspective where all my business was working in a certain way, and now it's not working any longer. So I had to basically almost like rebrand, restart, and rethink about my strategy, and also remember that we're in this, or we're in WordPress, in WooCommerce, because of the people. And I keep forgetting about that. Over the years, I've forgotten about it because I didn't need to, interact in person. I didn't need to, really push on relationships and, partnerships. It was all working on its own, like a, automatic engine. And now I had to change all over again, which is probably a good thing. I love working with people. I love, running courses. I love talking, in person. I wouldn't be the most extroverted person, but I enjoy going to the odd WordCamp Europe, and, who knows, maybe it will be a US someday or Asia. But, I enjoy these things. I actually tend to go there every year if I can, because I want to get out of my room. And this brings me to finding some different angle that could guarantee me, first of all, the same revenue, but also long-term success. And I think that focusing on people and community, it's a great thing to do, especially now where AI is kind of erasing and hiding the people, and I just want to bring them back. So the conference is one of the examples where I think it's going to work out, because we need to talk in person, we need to understand things in person, and we need to know each other. And talking to a random chat window is not enough any longer.
That's really interesting. So on the one hand, AI has damaged your business because your thing was like code snippets and things that people can get from AIs now, so you needed additional revenue streams. But you're absolutely right. We, as much as we may be developing digital versions of ourselves, we can't yet send them to Checkout Summit. So there is still that need to get together in person and have that authenticity that a lot of online communication is now missing. So that's really interesting. So before we get fully into the topic, anybody watching live, feel free to add comments and questions about anything to do with events and WooCommerce in the chat wherever you're watching this. Yeah, just anything you want to talk about, then just let us know.
Yeah, and before we get a bit deeper into the discussions with Rodolfo, we would love it if you could head over to any of our channels, social channels, YouTube channels, and subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff. We are Do the Woo podcast on YouTube, and we are Do the Woo on X. And our website is dothewoo.com, where we have a few links out to these places as well.
Yeah. Now let's start on the event side of things by looking at the wider landscape. So Rodolfo, you've identified that we need an additional conference, and yeah, I've seen very few in the past events related to WooCommerce, and yet they are kind of starting to pop up more. So what's your kind of perspective over what's been there in the past, what any gaps might be, and so on?
Yeah, good question. So there used to be an actual specific dedicated conference for WooCommerce developers by WooCommerce called WooConf. There were 3 editions of this WooConf. Actually, I have it here. So it's 2014 in San Francisco, 2016 in Austin, and 17 in Seattle. So yes, always in the USA. After that, I think they kind of put it on hold. Then COVID hit, and then afterwards, when everything opened up again, maybe they were thinking about it. I have no idea, but I really felt like there was, if you want, a gap in the market, but I wouldn't call it like that. I would mostly say a space where WooCommerce people could actually talk in person. At the same time, the coverage and the amount of WooCommerce people at local and flagship WordCamps went down. I don't know if by design or because lack of interest or because we didn't feel represented. I have no idea what was the actual reason. So less people attending WordCamps from the WooCommerce space, no dedicated conference by WooCommerce. And also, if you take a look outside, let's think about Shopify. Like, they have so many conferences out there. You probably attended already a few, and you've been only 1 year working within it. So I guess there's loads happening out there, whether it's Shopify or general e-commerce, tech, AI, and yet there is no WooCommerce conference. So, I really, really asked WooCommerce to get back into it. I spoke to them. We had so many conversations about this, and my second motivation for Checkout Summit is also that if it goes well, WooCommerce can also see whether there is value in it or not, and maybe bring WooCommerce back, WooConf back, sorry. So it was also a way to motivate them to get back into, a dedicated conference, because it's badly needed. Like, let's not forget that a WooCommerce conference could actually be targeted at, merchants or developers or agencies or freelancers, or there are so many different audiences out there. So no one is stopping us from saying we will have 5 different WooCommerce conferences every year. I don't know, but I wanted just to, get back into this, into creating something, into bringing, the best WooCommerce minds in a single place, and you never know what will come out of it. I'm really positive that something will happen. So the more in-person events we have about WooCommerce, the better ideas we have about the future of it, and the more partnerships and relationships we can build and grow together. So that's the whole point of in-person conferences in general.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, I've been in the WooCommerce space since 2011, I think, which is like very near the beginning of when WooCommerce existed. And I hadn't actually heard of WooConf, I think primarily because it's a US thing, or it was a US thing. And I wasn't necessarily all in on WooCommerce at that point in time. I was, building websites and working a lot with Magento actually as well, still in that period. And it was really 2017 where I started working a lot more in WooCommerce. And by that point, the last WooConf happened. So I never got to experience it. I think it sounds like a very cool event and something that, I know internally there's definitely a strong desire to have something like that again. I think what we have to remember is we have a very different sized business to Shopify, like a lot less resources for things like events. Though we do have events teams that, we utilize for things like WordCamp. So yeah, I will say there's definitely a desire to do something like that again. And I do think that Checkout Summit is going to be a good example of why we should do that. The main event that I was aware of and that I, have attended was WooSesh, which was an online event by Brian Richards, and I think someone else at the time. Was it Patrick was quite heavily involved, Patrick Rowland?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very cool. I'm not sure what the numbers were like on that, but it seemed well attended, like it had good speakers, and it was nice to have, I think it was 2 days in the end of like pretty much full on, talks and discussions about WooCommerce specifically. That was really nice.
Yeah, and there still is. I mean, Brian Richards, holds WooSesh once a year. Don't know what's the exact date for this year, but I mean that's amazing and that's great, and that's always been, a great thing about WooCommerce. I just wanted to get back into in-person conferences. I
Yeah.
mean that's
Yeah,
the unique selling proposition if we want to talk in business language. I mean, I think that since we a group of us spoke at the last WordCamp Europe, I think Katie was there as well.
Yeah.
And we said we so badly need like to actually meet properly for 48 hours in a single place, listen to speakers and talk to each other, and trying to build something together, or even understanding what's the new WooCommerce direction, and who's behind WooCommerce as well. I mean, this is so helpful as well whenever you meet in person. It's equivalent to when
Oh yeah.
WooCommerce gets a booth at a WordCamp and sponsors it. I mean, it's so nice to just meet the actual WooCommerce staff. And I mean, you will be there, but it's the exact same thing for the others, because I mean, we almost forgot who's behind WooCommerce. We love the WooCommerce brand, but we don't know the people of WooCommerce. So that's also another, key reason why I want to do this. On top of, spending quality time together, and that's why I came up with Checkout Summit. And I hope it's gonna work, and I hope it's gonna, as I said earlier, to remind WooCommerce itself that it's actually not that difficult and not that expensive to run events. If I've been organizing these on my own, definitely WooCommerce can do that too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like they're listening because there is already talk of it, as James said. And when we had Bo on the show, the what's he, creative director or something of Woo,
Artistic.
he seemed artistic director. I just want to say CEO, but Mullenweg likes different sorts of titles to that.
Indeed.
Anyway, he would seem very open to the idea and was talking about some of the practicalities and different ways they could do it. So, assuming Checkout Summit is a success, which it definitely looks like it will be, then hopefully we'll start to see that. Got a couple of comments. We've got one from Zach. Why doesn't it show there? People also pay significantly more to attend WooConf than they do WordCamps. I didn't know that. I guess, is it more about like it's more professionalized? I mean, yeah, Woo is open source, but it's also more commercial because people are selling things in e-commerce. That's interesting. Because yeah, WordCamps don't cost a normal amount for tech conferences, as we all know. Like $40 is not normal. 150 to 1,000 plus is normal, I would say. So I didn't know that about WooConf.
No,
Yeah, and
maybe there's some
also,
level of sponsorship and WordCamps being run by the foundation and they have this budget to work with. So I guess if WooCommerce were doing WooConf, it's kind of all on them. There's none of this like foundation. Yeah, I'm not sure what the ticket cost was, but that's interesting.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was around $500 or $600, if I'm not wrong. But you see, at the time, so we're talking about 2000 and what was it, 16, 17. I was also early in my business. Like I wasn't really making enough money to pay for a US trip, for the visa, for the accommodation, for maybe the expensive ticket as well. So these 3 WooConf events back in the USA, I mean, they were pretty much US business events or developer events. So it also justifies, I think, the higher costs because of cost of living, because it's expensive to, get venues out there. Maybe they had less sponsors than a flagship WordCamp. So it's understandable. But I think they were great events. And that's why, I kept pinging at them saying we need WooConf back, and I think I wrote it about 3 or 4 times on my blog, about 20 times on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever it was. So I was really pushing WooCommerce to get back into this because it's, as I said, badly needed.
Yeah, Marcus Burnett has a question as well. A lot of people are reinvigorated by AI to build things again. Do you all think this will spill over into wanting to meet up in person to share about these things? So will we be discussing AI at the event?
Well, I have some thoughts on this actually, because obviously OpenClaw is something that came out, created a load of buzz, massive buzz, that more than we've seen for any other sort of AI product. But something that also came out of that is tons of independent meetups around OpenClaw, and like tons, so many that they've got a page listing them all now on Luma.
Already, wow.
Already, yeah, and there's so many of them that people just meet up and they want to talk about their open claws and what they're doing and that kind of stuff. And I think maybe that sort of independent meetup, it's not an event, but it's a meetup, a local meetup, is something that maybe we could encourage more and assist with in some way. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I've definitely seen an uplift in people wanting to do these sort of local meetups, and that can be quite good for, if we assume that WooComp or something equivalent might have a higher ticket price, these local meetups don't have that issue. Usually, they're free and you just turn up at the place and chat. So I think that is something that I would love to see more of. Because I haven't seen any actually WooCommerce meetups.
No, even in places where loads of people live, like I wouldn't expect one in Mallorca or Sicily, perhaps, other than Checkout Summit. But yeah, even in the US, you don't hear about other people meeting up, do you? About WooCommerce.
No, not like you do with WordPress. Yeah, so that's interesting. We've talked a lot about Checkout Summit. We haven't said when it is or where it is. I think that would be a good point to cover from you, Rodolfo, because you're very familiar with the area.
Yes, Checkout Summit is my baby, so I cannot get it, I cannot get it wrong. But yeah, it's on the 23rd and 24th of April this year, so 2026, in Sicily. So that's in Palermo, exactly where I live. I just figured, because it's the very first episode, the very first event, that it was easier if I organized it, 15 minutes drive from my house. So that was the initial plan. Also, Sicily is like an unusual place to do conferences. You would think about it for, going on holiday, but not necessarily to, come here and do business. So I wanted, a bit of both. In fact, we're, in a venue, on the beachfront, and, it's gonna be nice if the weather is kind to us as well. So it's not just business, it's not just WooCommerce, it's also relaxed, fun, and maybe a walk on the beach if people enjoy that. But yeah, so I mean, I've decided to start from here, see how it is, see how it goes, see if it's financially feasible, given that I've been organizing it all on my own, and then I will decide about possible event number two, year number two, the day after. So I've decided that I'm not gonna stress myself out on this. I just want to put all my energy into this very first conference and do my best, do the best as I can. And we've got incredible people coming from, I mean, we're in Sicily, and we've got people coming from Australia, California, South Africa, and Norway. Like we have the all the the longest distances. We could do some sort of ranking about miles on a plane, but incredibly this small event of WooCommerce developers and founders and makers in Sicily is attracting a lot of people from really far away, and that makes me super proud. And of course, it's on 2 days. There's going to be speakers as usual, but also a lot of networking. And as you mentioned earlier, there's going to be enough time for people to talk to everyone if they wish to. It's not like 10,000 people that you're probably going to get a little bit overwhelmed, and you still tend to talk to those 10 and that's it. In this case, we're going to be a smaller conference than a flagship WordCamp. Time to talk, time to network, time to maybe partner, time to maybe find someone for an acquisition, whatever it is. So there's going to be loads of chatting out there, loads of opportunities, and a lot of people bring in their laptops, showing what they're doing, what they're working on, or how they've automated things, or how they've optimized their processes. And this is going to be an amazing thing, actually looking at how people are embracing AI, how people are embracing automation, how people are remarketing because of AI. So a lot of changed in the last 2 years. I mean, if I had to change, I bet that those multi-million dollar companies out there had to do something as well. So lots of talks, and we can together find out at what stage is WooCommerce and at what stage WooCommerce will be in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I mean, from the outside, it seems like you've been doing pretty well with getting sponsors and people, buying tickets. Are you happy to speak to the number of attendees that are coming and the sponsors that you've got? It's a good opportunity to kind of promote them, I guess, because I imagine without sponsors, it would have been very hard to put this on.
Yeah, indeed. I have to honestly say that it hasn't been super easy. Thankfully, I started working on this back in June 2025, so that gave me enough time to get to this stage where we are about 102 people at the moment, so 48 tickets left, and we have 4 good sponsors. I would have loved to have 6, to be honest. There's still time, of course, but the 4 that we have, and I mean WooCommerce is one of them, of course. I'm super happy about them, and I'm sure they can get enough visibility and conversations and value for money and return on the investment, if that's the new keyword for sponsors. But yeah, so we've got about 48 tickets left with a little less than 2 months to go. I'm not trying to stress out on numbers, and I think that's something very important. Excuse me. I don't want to be there like sweating until the last ticket is sold. I don't think that's sane. I don't think that makes sense. As long as I have the right people in there, even if they were only 20, I would have been super happy. So it's not about the number of people, it's about the quality of the people out there. So I'm not gonna cry in the morning because I didn't sell out. I don't know. I mean, we could be here in 2 months' time talking about how I sold out everything in the last minute, but I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is trying to make the best possible experience. It's not gonna be perfect. It's the first time. It's all under my direction and my umbrella, so it's not gonna be perfect for sure. I've been doing everything on my own, but I can do it, and I could do it, and I will do it. So it doesn't worry me too much. I'm just spending these last couple of months trying to also organize some fun activities, some networking, some games, and some walks, whatever it is that can add up to the experience. Then I'm happy with it, because it's not only about WooCommerce, and we all know that the best business is done in the hallway tracks at work camps, or outside when out in a pub or drinking or whatever it is. So it's not just speakers, it's also other things, and that's something that I really wanted to focus on. I mean, the speakers are amazing, but I also wanted to curate the experience. So I hope it's gonna be I'm gonna be 60% happy with it, then I'll call that a success.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice way to do it, because you're doing it for the passion of WooCommerce and the desire for people to connect and learn from each other versus trying to make profit and as much money as you can, which I think in turn means it's going to be a good event. Like you say, regardless of how many people attend, just the people that do attend are sharing that same passion for WooCommerce and connecting. So yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job so far, and I don't have any concerns that it's going to be a success.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I've been particularly impressed by the people who you have got to attend already, and as you say, coming from all over the world. To compare to this, we all went to e-commerce day in Porto in, was it November? I think it was the middle of November.
November, yeah.
And that was a really good event. There weren't as many international people as you are getting to check out Summit. And I think that is testament to how hard you've worked on it and the marketing and everything you've put into it. You are getting people from, as you say, all over the world, and basically kind of the key players from WooCommerce globally, which is pretty impressive for one new event that you're organizing on your own. So that will make all the difference, having all of those people in the room together.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's been tough, but so far I'm super happy with the quality and like even the distance people are flying from, or the fact that most of them are actually gonna stay in Sicily for extra days, or enjoy the sunshine, hopefully. I mean, it's been raining for 2 months, so if it's gonna rain at the end of April, I'm really gonna be super unlucky, but that's exactly what I wanted. It's definitely, I would put 99% passion and 1% financial, because at the moment it's not looking great. But, as long as, I can wake up every morning and, keep that same passion, that same motivation, then I'm super happy with it. The day I will wake up and say, oh, this disaster, or it wasn't really good, or it didn't go as planned, then I will think about it. But for now, it's like, it's been almost 10 months of super motivation and trying to get this done and be happy about it. It's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about things from the attendees' perspective now, because not everybody sees value in attending events. And I think some people attend events and maybe don't get that much value out. So let's all share a bit about our experiences of events we've attended and what made them work, what didn't work, and how to approach them, really. What would be your advice, Rodolfo?
Okay, so I come from a different motivation for me, which would be getting out of the house. So that's why I tend to go to WordCamp Europe every year.
Same.
Just to, be out there talking to people, new conversations, new relationships, business relationships, and so on. So this is my point of view for WordCamps. But in this case, because it's super focused around WooCommerce, and it's all about the makers and the founders and the developers and the people that make the WooCommerce ecosystem happen. I would actually suggest people to define an objective before coming here. So whether it's someone looking to sell their plugin, or to acquire some other plugins, or to find a new project to work on, or to find a business partner, or really to talk some of the sponsors and see what they're doing and what they're working on within the WooCommerce ecosystem. I think if someone defines a goal before coming here, then they come here literally 10 minutes from a house. I could actually almost invite you all in at my place just for dinner or something, but they come here and with a goal in mind, and they try to work on that. I mean, it's guaranteed that you're gonna get something out of it. The other day I was talking to some big agency owner, and he was kind of reluctant to come, and needs to take some days off, and has got job to get done, and so on. And I said, you know what, I'm almost gonna guarantee you that if you come here, you're gonna make your money back. If it goes bad, if it goes well, you're gonna 10x that, just because the quality of the people in the room is exceptional. So we don't have time wasters, we don't have People who are not working with WooCommerce. We don't have people from other, plugins or from other places or from, other niches. And it's guaranteed that one good conversation can bring you a new project, a new partnership, a new long-term relationship, whatever it is. It's definitely gonna work in that way. So I always suggest people to, come up with a goal and try to see if they can reach that objective within the 2.5 days we're gonna spend together.
Yeah, I think that's a good aim to have. I've been quite fortunate in my approach to events in that I've been on like both sides of being an attendee. So, prior to this, I had my plugin company, and my goal was to not necessarily, sell more plugins, but just to make people aware of me and that, company and business and the types of things that we can do and the plugins that we offer. And now I'm on this other side where typically at these events we're a sponsor, and I'm talking to people in this kind of product mindset where I want to understand how people use the product, like how we can make it better. So it's similar, but I feel like I'm on the other side of the conversation now, and I do feel like both sides can have tremendous value from these events. I know that if I had never attended a WordCamp, it's very unlikely I would have had the connections at the time to even consider selling and having my previous business acquired. I very much doubt that anyone would even know what Iconic was at that time, without having made these connections. So yeah, even if the rewards from attending something like this aren't immediately apparent, I think just having a larger network in this specific space is immensely valuable. Like going into the future, even like a few years down the line, a connection that you made may, approach you for a specific project, or just have something else in mind, and it's just very valuable.
Yeah, that's true. My attitude to events has kind of evolved over the years. When I was newer to it all, I would sort of set a goal and try and be specific, and I go with the flow a bit more now. But it's interesting what different things you can get out of an event. For example, for me, one of them is seeing my team. I never see my team in person except for at events. We've never had the budget for a dedicated Barn2 meetup, largely because we're a global company. So to bring all 18 of us together from all the continents would just be ridiculous. So instead, we go to our local WordCamp or other events. There'll be, what is it, Rodolfo? There's like 5 of us or something at Checkout Summit, I think. And that's a team meetup, isn't it? But they also get the benefit of being part of the event and meeting other people, not just their colleagues. So I think that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I shouldn't say this because me and James are both speakers, but I never really go to talks. I prefer to spend the time actually talking to people. That's what I get the most value of. And one thing I do to make that more valuable is to make my calendar available. I've only started doing that the last year or 2. And at first I saw people do it and I thought, why would anybody book an event on my calendar? But they actually do. And so that makes it really easy to network with relevant people. You just have to put a note on it. If you're trying to sell me something, I'm not going to accept this appointment. But actually really good people book, people from major companies that want to do partnerships or something like that. So I would recommend that. And if you're not somebody that has enough following to get people to book, then follow, say, the Checkout Summit hashtag and see other people announcing their calendars, and then you can book appointments with them. So I would recommend trying to get some pre-booked appointments, although it's not essential as a smaller event because you can run into people that much more easily. Finally, Because whenever I go to an event, I have to leave my husband doing all the childcare, which isn't easy, and it's a lot of money. I do feel like I have to justify it. So he doesn't ask for this, but I always send him an email afterwards of a list of everything I got out of it business-wise. So I'll be in my Apple Notes while I'm at the event, writing down I had a really valuable conversation, potential partnership, whatever, and then I put it all together. And it always surprises me when you actually write it down, how much you get out of it. And as James said, a lot of that is small things that might bear fruit in the future, like getting to know somebody from a major company that maybe they'll want to acquire you if you ever want to do that down the road in the future. All of those connections do add up over time, and it just makes you a real person within the industry.
Yeah, I think one example actually on the WooCommerce side from WordCamp 24, I think, Europe. The big push that we had in WooCommerce to make the front end fully accessible came from me opening my calendar and speaking to quite a few accessibility agencies that were all asking for the same thing. For us to lead by example and make the front end of WooCommerce accessible just out the box. And those conversations really helped push that project forward and, make that happen. And I think, the fact that a few of us from WooCommerce are going to actually be at this event, Checkout Summit as well, just gives you the opportunity to kind of bear your needs and desires for WooCommerce, and for us to actually be there and listen. I really enjoy listening to what people say and actioning the things that they want to see as much as possible. So I probably will put my calendar out for this event. So if you do want to book some time, follow me on X and get a slot booked in.
Yep, and Zach supports that idea. An open meeting calendar for an event is an excellent way to find that elusive ROI. Yeah, it just makes it all a bit more intentional.
Yeah, exactly that. Katie, did you want to touch on the next point about what makes it a good or a bad event, or do you feel like we've covered that?
Yeah, we've kind of covered it. I suppose no, we've covered what you can do as an attendee, not about how to evaluate what makes a good and a bad event, I guess. For me, I know I don't go to talks, but it still annoys me that a lot of events, particularly WordCamps, the talks are not really about much sometimes. They're particularly not about business and marketing and really tangible things that you can put into action in your own work. So like I like events where they really focus on actions in the talks and things people can take away personally. And that will make me much more likely to actually attend a talk.
Yeah, it depends on the audience as well, right? Typically, at WordCamps, a lot of the talks are like developer focused, I would say. And I do feel like there's been a shift a bit in that in recent years. I know, Katie, you've done some product focused talks, but there's still a lack of like WooCommerce specific talks. And I don't know that I've ever seen a talk focused at WooCommerce merchants. Maybe that has happened and I just haven't paid enough attention. But I think
check out at events. What's it called? E-commerce day, didn't I?
You did, yes. Yeah. I think it really depends on the event. At WordCamps, it's very much WordPress focused and not necessarily WooCommerce or e-commerce in general focused. So I think at Checkout Summit, it's going to be a great opportunity to actually see some of these talks for different types of audience members, and to really be able to do that and network. Like you say, I tend to network a lot more than actually look at or go to the talks at WordCamps, because that's what I find to be most valuable for me, and I think it depends on the person.
It does. Also, like, because I come from the same background where I enjoy chatting to people, I don't particularly enjoy talks and stuff like that. Even though I must say that in the last couple of years, they've been doing a much better job in regards to content. I wanted like one single track, so not to get everyone confused. Where should I go? Oh my gosh, like where's the next room? I'm gonna get lost whenever I switch to another room and so on. And also, I wanted to have just 12 speakers across 2 days. So making sure that those 6 per day are doing the best job they can and crafting their story as better as they can, and sharing all the content, even though it's short talk, so it's going to be 25-30 minutes. I actually will tell them, and will keep reminding them that the value is in the chats that you will have afterwards. So the talk has to have a specific objective, which is share the important content, but then come and talk to me afterwards, because this is how we do in WordPress. We love talking to speakers. Each one has got a different question. Each one has got a different case study. Each one, uses things in a different way. As you said, if you take a look at WooCommerce, you've got merchants and developers and freelancers and designers and DIYs and so on. So it's really hard to find, something that appeals to everyone. But I must say that I ask speakers, like the only, the number one rule was that WooCommerce keyword had to be in the title. I mean, if we start from there, we already know that the talks are going to be super targeted. There's no fuss, no distractions. It's all going to be about WooCommerce. It's all going to be about business and development and AI and whatever it is right now. And people are going to get great value. So I wanted Checkout Summit to be a content first conference as well as people first. But content is something that I do. I've been doing it for ever, and I really value content, and I think people should come, should go there, learn something new. That's the whole point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, before we finish, we've got 2 comments to feature. Zach says, I've done quite a few beginner-focused Woo Talks at WordCamps. Nice. And Dave Lute says, going to be great. Went to a similar event where hotel plus conference is one. Well, it wasn't on an island too, so no escape possible. I hadn't thought about the escape factor, but I do really like events where it's all in one venue, where the venue is a hotel and the majority of attendees stay at that hotel. To me, that makes a huge difference, and not all WordCamps do that, and I really like the ones that do. Another one that gets that right is Checkout Summit. Again, a small conference happening right before, Press Conf. I'm getting them all confused. Press Conf is right before Checkout Summit. And that is a small conference in a hotel. Everybody's there. And it's just creates a really friendly atmosphere because you see the same people over and over, and you build much stronger connections than if people are spread out all over town.
It is true. And I think Rodolfo touched on this earlier, but in terms of escape, Sicily's a very nice place to just leave the hotel and walk somewhere.
That'll do.
So I think it'll be awesome. Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for coming on. I'm very excited to come to Checkout Summit, to meet with you again and to meet with everyone that comes. Thank you to everyone that submitted questions while we were talking to Rodolfo. There's definitely a buzz, from people that this is happening. So I think it's really good what you've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our next episode will be after Checkout Summit, and we've got 2 in short succession at the end of April. On the 21st of April, James and I will be back for an episode about scaling WooCommerce operations with automation. and how to create real workflows with things like AI and other automation tools. We're going to have James Collins from the WooCommerce Zapier plugin. And then a few days after that, we're going to be back again with a special panel featuring Rodolfo and several of the other guests from Checkout Summit. And we're going to be doing a wrap up of the event, whether our hopes and dreams came true, particularly Rodolfo's, and what we learned from it.
Yeah, very much looking forward to both of them. Hopefully Rodolfo will be very happy after the event. I expect you will be. But be sure to subscribe. Like I said at the beginning, on YouTube, we're Do The Woo Podcast. On X, we are Do The Woo. And you can also find us on dothewoo.com.